The laptop is open, you look at the task, you even think about doing it, but you don't start. Most people would call that laziness, but something strange happens here because later, you start talking about huge plans, big goals, big ideas, things you want to build, things you want to become. And people notice the contradiction. You seem lazy, but somehow you're also extremely ambitious. And most people assume those two things can't exist together, but they actually do. And once you notice the psychology behind it, this personality type starts making a lot more sense. You open your laptop, you stare at the task, you know exactly what you should do, but starting feels heavy. So you delay it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe an hour. But while you delay it, your mind is doing something strange. It starts imagining the future, a better job, a business idea, a new life, a big plan. And the plans feel exciting, much more exciting than the small task in front of you. So people look at you and think something doesn't add up, because lazy people usually don't dream that big, and ambitious people usually work all the time. But you seem to be both, lazy and ambitious. And most people don't understand how that combination works. But there's actually a very specific pattern behind it. If you're this type of person, some small habits probably feel familiar. You procrastinate a lot, not because you don't care, but because starting things feels harder than it should. You delay tasks until the last moment. Then suddenly, you finish them very quickly, almost too quickly. People assume you're careless, but you're not. Your mind just works in bursts. Another thing happens. You spend a lot of time thinking, planning, imagining, sometimes for hours. You picture how life could look in 5 years, or 10. You imagine building something big, something meaningful, but then when it comes to the small daily steps, you slow down. And that's where people get confused, because on the outside, it looks like you lack discipline. But inside, your mind is constantly active, thinking, replaying, imagining. And if you're honest, you probably know someone exactly like this. Or maybe you're starting to realize something. That person might be you, but something strange starts happening here. People think this personality type is just lazy, but that's not actually what's happening. Something else is going on inside the mind. Here's the part most people miss. The problem usually isn't ambition, and it isn't intelligence either. It's something much simpler. Energy. Starting energy. Some minds need a lot of energy to begin things, not to finish them, just to start. And until that starting energy appears, the brain resists. It delays, it wanders, it imagines other things. But once momentum begins, everything changes. You might have noticed this before. You delay a task all day, then suddenly you start. And once you start, you finish quickly, almost effortlessly. That's because the real barrier was never the work. It was the starting point. But there's another layer here. Ambitious people often imagine very large outcomes, big projects, big achievements, big futures. And when your brain compares those big visions to a small task today, the small task feels meaningless. Your mind thinks, why focus on this tiny step? I want something bigger. So motivation drops. Not because you don't care, but because the brain is focused on a bigger picture. And this creates a strange contradiction. You think big, but daily tasks feel small, so you delay them. But something even deeper is happening. Ambitious minds often spend a lot of time thinking, and thinking uses energy too. Planning, imagining, problem solving, replaying conversations, analyzing the future. By the time it's time to act, your mental energy is already lower. So the brain chooses the easiest option: delay, rest, scroll, wait. But this reveals something interesting. You're not avoiding effort, you're managing mental energy. And once you notice that pattern, a lot of your behavior suddenly makes more sense. Now, here's the part people rarely talk about. This personality type actually has hidden strengths. Lazy but ambitious minds often process ideas deeply. They question things. They imagine better systems, better ways of doing things. And because of that, they often dislike repetitive tasks. Routine work feels draining, not because they're incapable, but because their brain wants meaning, purpose, direction. They want to build something, not just maintain something, and that difference matters. Another hidden strength is independence. Lazy, ambitious people often dislike being controlled. They want freedom over their time, freedom over their work, freedom over their ideas. And that's why traditional structures sometimes feel exhausting. But this reveals something important. Many people who appear lazy aren't avoiding work. They're avoiding meaningless work. And when they finally find something that matters to them, something strange happens. The laziness disappears, the energy appears, and people around them feel confused because suddenly the same person who seemed unmotivated is working harder than everyone else. But from the inside, it never felt strange. It finally felt aligned. And when people realize this about themselves, they often see their habits differently. They realize they weren't broken. They were just wired differently. So if you're someone who feels lazy sometimes, but still dreams about big things, maybe there's nothing contradictory about that. Maybe your mind simply needs the right kind of challenge, the right kind of purpose. Because ambition doesn't always look like constant activity. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks like thinking, planning, waiting, until something finally feels worth the effort. And when that moment appears, everything changes. But now I'm curious about something. When you delay a task, is it because you don't care about the goal? Or because the task itself feels too small for the goal you imagine? Do you relate to this?